If Beyonce thinks country, she grew up in Texas, she's got the accolades. If she's like, I want to make a country record, that's a testament to the genre. That's amazing. All of a sudden you're gonna, Beyonce fans are listening to a country album. It's only great for the genre.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Manager's Playbook. Today it is my absolute pleasure to present to you Chief Zaruk and Simon Tikhman of the Core Entertainment. These two are absolute powerhouses in the country music genre. They manage superstars like Bailey Zimmerman, Nate Smith, Gavin Lucas, and several other successful writers and artists. Now, the country music scene has emerged front and center in pop culture. You gotta look no further than superstar arrivals from Beyonce and Post Malone into the genre. And the mainstream attention couldn't have come at a better time, as Chief and Simon's management and record label, The Core, has been positioned at the forefront of the country music culture. Now, I'll admit, I'm be the first person to tell you that the country music scene is fairly foreign to me. It's not a space I'm ingrained in, but I've always had respect for the genre, especially the songwriting, especially the storytelling. So it was great to crack open with Simon and Chief why country music is having its moment in the mainstream today. Now, what's also great about this combo is their unwavering attention to artist development. That's something that's overlooked in the music industry quite often in this day and age, but it's still very foundational to their artist success. So we go into detail about what they do in that process to ensure that their artists are ready for the big stage. And now you couple that with their forward-thinking approach to social and media content, it's no surprise why their company and their artists are having the success that they're having today. The proof shows itself with their legacy act, Nickelback. The strategy and approach they took with the group through uncharted waters to new success is a testament to Chief and Simon's strategy in the music industry of today. Ladies and gentlemen, simply put, a conversation like this doesn't come cheap. And without further ado, Chief Zaruk and Simon Tikhman.
Right out the gate, why has the genre of country music exploded?
I mean, it's not just one reason. I think there's a bunch of reasons, but I think it starts with, I think the culture of country music has really changed, where it used to be so much of like Nashville based, which was based on small towns, farms, dirt roads, trucks, and that was the culture. That was Nashville, that was country music for a really long time. And then I think when artists like FGL brought in Nelly, and they brought in Jason Derulo, and they brought in Backstreet Boys, and then they brought in BB Rexa, they started bringing other influences into country music. And then I think that started to expand the fan base. And I think as the fan base started to expand, country artists had no choice but to be like, wait, our fan base is now more cultured in some ways than they used to be. And now we can expand how we're writing songs and how we're delivering songs, how we're recording songs, our sonics, everything about country music was now more acceptable because your fan base was more open to it. So I think the combination of like other artists coming in and then other sounds, other sonics, and then the songwriting starting to change and write more global songs, I think that really helped like make the genre bigger.
Yeah, and culture's everything, right? Like everything drives culture. Like culture drives everything.
Yeah.
Right? You talk about hip hop or all that. It's all about the culture. And I think there was kind of a shift where you used to hear everybody be like, "Oh, I love all genres of music, but just not country." Right? That's kind of like a thing. And all of a sudden, it's like it's shifted, right? It's like country's cool. Like country's cool. Like if people listen to the new Morgan songs, we were always talking about last night's a hip hop song. Right?
Right.
It's a hip hop song. Like it is cool again. It's part of culture. There's a reason that Drake, who's the face of culture, puts Morgan in a music video of his, right? It's like, it's driving culture in such a different way. And then I think the outside world can all of a sudden are like, oh wait, these country stars aren't playing like these small venues. They're playing like NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
Like multiple nights. There's a reason.
Yeah.
It's I think information now is so much easier to get than it used to be, right? Because of social media. And people are fascinated. They're like, I might have never heard of Morgan Wallen. There's a lot of people in this city who've never heard of Morgan Wallen.
For sure.
But then they go and they're like, he's playing SoFi.
But you know the records.
Exactly.
You know the records.
The second you press play, they're like, oh, I've heard this song. I've heard this song.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people are interested. And they want to know what is this, what is it all about? And then they start listening. And for us, we love being kind of like a little piece of that. Be like, no. I know you say you don't listen to country, but just listen to this one Bailey track, and I promise you'll like it.
Well, you say you're a little piece of that, but you guys really are at the forefront of country music and rock as well, too, right? So, I mean, being that you're at the forefront, you've seen it change, and you've seen these mainstream acts coming into it. And you mentioned somewhere else in an interview or in a podcast as well that with that comes a lot of challenges as well. So what are some of those challenges that you come across when the mainstream acts are coming into the genre of country? Is it like the authenticity of it? Is it the songwriting process of it? What is it?
I think it's both. I think there's expectations, right? When you're playing with house money, it's different. It's like,
I like that.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden there's expectations. When Beyonce and Post and they're all jumping into the genre, you're like, oh dang, like this is now elevated to some of the biggest stars in the world are jumping. Now there's more eyeballs on it, and there's bigger critics. It's very different now. The level, everyone's leveling up, so that just makes it harder for the artists already doing, because like now they're competing with people who have already been playing stadiums around the world before they even jumped in the genre. And I think it's hard. And I think that the issue I have, and we both have this, is that I think it's great for the genre when outsiders come in. It's only great. More eyeballs is great.
Yeah.
The problem is sometimes there's like kind of the old heads
For sure.
who like the old boys club.
That's
type of
happening.
They
stuff.
want to protect.
Yeah.
It's like, but why?
That's a lot of genres. Yeah. The
You
people
know?
like that, yeah.
It's like, but why? If Beyonce thinks country, she grew up in Texas, she's got the accolades. If she's like, I want to make a country record, that's a testament to the genre. That's amazing. All of a sudden, Beyonce fans are listening to a country album, and who knows? There's then Shabuzi and all these like Takeoff and Tanner and all that. It's only great for the genre.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's like bigger challenges. I think what it is like how any risk are you willing to take, right? So even though the genre is growing and the fan base is bigger and everyone's more accepting, but you still have to make your own path. You still have to carve your own way, because it's as much as it's bigger, it's also more competitive now than it's ever been. So how do you separate from the pack? And I think what we like to do, and knock on wood, it's worked very well for us, but we do like to be like, oh, everyone's going left, let's go see what's over here on the right side. Everyone's trying to do this, well, maybe we can do this and see if that works. And I think it's exciting because you can take the risk that maybe normally you wouldn't take or you wouldn't want to take.
Yeah.
We thankfully have signed some artists that think exactly the same way. They're like, we're down to take the risk to see if we can carve our own lane out and make a name for ourselves instead of trying to follow trend, which always happens in music.
Yeah, following trends is a difficult challenge because I mean it's here for now, and then who knows what it's going to be. And today the velocity it's super fast the way that it moves right now. Is that how you guys came across Bailey Zimmerman? Because you kind of went a little left here with him, or like how did that come about?
I mean, Bailey had a TikTok going.
Yeah,
and
he was just like raising trucks, no? Essentially.
Yeah, he was a star in a world that we were not exposed to.
Not a singer,
not
at
even
all.
a singer. He was singing for 4 months when someone brought him to us.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it was like, and then he had that one song, and like his tone was undeniable.
Yeah, was it Gavin that brought it to you guys?
No, it was his former co-manager of his. Yeah,
okay.
He brought it to us.
Okay.
And then obviously Gavin came with Beezy as his best friend and collaborator, and the guy who convinced him to be an artist.
Amazing.
And even though he was green and young and all that stuff, and he'll say the same thing, his voice was undeniable. When we saw the clip, was Never Coming Home? Never Coming Home. And you're like, whoa, this kid's been singing for 4 months. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like he just God-given ability.
Yeah.
I think it's like, those are the things that, you try to look for in an artist is like voice, tone, and then you meet him and then it's like charisma, personality, how does he handle himself? And he is that kid where like you meet him and instantly you're like, I believe it. Because it's whatever he's going to do, I'm in, I believe it.
And it's so important that you say that that you gotta meet the artist.
Have to.
Yeah.
Because you can get fooled a lot right now online with so much that's out there. So once you meet him or her and you say, oh my God, exactly what I saw here on this TikTok or on this Instagram is who you're presenting to me and more.
And more. Yeah.
Like that's the best part of it,
Of course.
right?
But even that's not enough anymore. There's
Right.
so much competition. There's always been competition. But now we always tell our artists, like, everyone in Nashville can sing. You go to a restaurant, that waiter, that waitress, she might have a pub deal.
Yeah.
She might, what's
true.
going to separate
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Are you going to work as hard as you possibly can? Do you want this that bad? Because this is not an easy job. Like, you're the CEO. We're here to help and
Yep.
guide and make decisions and tell you wrong from right and yes or no and things like that and kind of see long term. But at the end of the day, like, you're the CEO. You drive this. We're just here to help and facilitate.
Yeah. So let's stay on that track. So artist development part right now. So, what does artist development look like today versus what it looked like, let's say 10 or 15 years ago? But let's more drill down on like the artist development of today for how you guys do it. Because you guys do it at a very high clip and a very successful rate. And it's incredible. Congratulations,
Yeah,
by the way.
thank you.
It's amazing.
I mean, look, have been doing this longer than a lot of people. I don't think the artist development
I was going to say what year,
starts-
but then I decided not to.
Yeah, don't age
No,
yourself.
sorry. We'll cut it out.
Just because he looks very young.
He looks like
he looks great.
I found out how old he was the other day, and I was
Go down to see the birth
I was like, oh
certificate.
shit! I thought my man was out my age. I was like, all right. No, go ahead.
We're going to keep this all in.
Okay.
No, but I think the arts development part actually has not changed. And when I say that, I mean, like, whether it's 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 5 years ago, or last week, it all starts with preparing the artist for the career that they're about and the journey that they're about to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with songs, performance, voice, movement lessons, how press and PR lessons, like how you move on stage. Do you have a good live show? What can you, like, to me, it is like going top to bottom and being like, where are your strengths, where your weaknesses, where your weaknesses are, let's make you stronger. Where you're already strong, let's hone in and make them even better. And, we compare a lot of what we do to like sports, like being an athlete, right? You go in there and you train. So when you get out on the field, you're ready to play and you're not even thinking because you've already prepped. You've sat in the coach's room, they know the plans, you've done the training, you've done the practice, you've done the pro season. So when you actually go to play the game, you just got to go play the game. And you're confident because you're ready. For us, developing new artists, it's the same thing. What do we do to get them ready so when they go on stage and they go out into the world and they do press and they perform and they meet their fans and they do social media, they're not even thinking about it because they know they're good at it. They already know they're prepared and they can handle it all. So that part hasn't changed. Now, has it changed in like, is social media wasn't a thing before and now it is? Sure, but press and PR was there before and you would still get bad articles and you'd still have radio talk shit about you and you still have to deal with it. It's just more enhanced now.
Yeah.
And it's obviously on your phone, it's right in front of you. But the idea of taking a young artist Bailey, that's never done this before and sitting there and going, how do we prepare you best so you can succeed and do your job that you want to do? That's artist management. And I just think people either don't have the time or they don't have the money or they don't have the staff or they don't have the resources. So it just kind of gets pushed aside and it's easier to just like put out a song and an artist and see if it works. We don't do that.
And I think also, I love the sports because I was just reading the Tom Brady speech or watching the Tom Brady speech because he always talks about like, people always talk about the Super Bowls and all that stuff, but they never talk about like the dog days of summer or that like training camp where like you're just like on your 7th, 10th day and like you don't want to be there. It's like not the game. And we talk about that. We really talk about that with all our artists. It's like the little things that you think don't matter, the radio interview, the little thing that you hate to do, that's the meet and greets, all those little things, I promise you, they add up and help you have a career. And that you're not just here for a minute and then you can talk to people one day, oh, I was in the industry for a few years. But if you want to be a career artist, it's the little things that you do that separate you from the pack. And the thing is for us, look, everyone's kind of looking for the same stuff and the joie de vie of an artist, like the juice, right?
Yeah, the juice.
The juice, right? But I think people nowadays, because of social and DSPs and all that, they're too busy looking at algorithms and numbers. And the difference for us, honestly, and I say this, and maybe there's other people doing it too, we don't care as much. If there's someone with crazy numbers and we don't like the music, or they don't come into our office and feel like they got something, the numbers are irrelevant for us. I'd rather someone come in with a crazy voice, a crazy dream, all this stuff with no social numbers at all. We'd rather sign that person.
You can work
We'd
with
rather.
that.
So we can do something there.
Yeah.
But someone with all the numbers, but like, I don't know, feels like they've already hit it before they've actually gotten anything done. Because the world we live in, followers and engagement, people lead with that.
Yeah, instant gratification, and we saw it over the pandemic. How many artists were being signed based off of one record, and where are they today? Right? We've seen a lot of that.
I mean, 99% of them are gone.
Gone. Yeah,
Gone.
So I mean, to your point, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Is there a specific cadence? I do love the sports analogy as well, right, too, and the Tom Brady, because a lot of this and the artist development part is what happens, what people don't see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So much of it is what happens, right? So then when you have the performer go on stage and they perform and they crush it as if they've been, it's a local venue of 150, but it doesn't matter. It could be an arena.
Yeah.
Because they're so prepared, right? The only thing that changes is maybe the butterflies.
Exactly.
In that situation. But were you gonna say something?
No, just saying sometimes it's like the people who come to the show and see a great performance and it's like amazing. And then sometimes for us, like instead of like we go back after the performance and it's sometimes just like a sigh of relief. It's not like it's like how did we got it? We got it done. I don't know how we did it. There was this obstacle and that obstacle, but we somehow, the artist just did what they're born to do. Yeah. But there were so many things to get that artist on stage.
It's a lot.
To avoid or whatever it was to get them there. And then the final product is all that matters to the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Like but it ain't easy.
It's not easy.
You've done it.
It's not easy at all. Man. You going up, when you don't have the resources and the money, that's actually something that's super interesting. I want to ask you guys about that. I mean, I remember my experience when not having any money and resources, being in a parking lot. I can't rent a rehearsal studio, so we're in a parking lot. There's a light there. It's 2 a.m. Water bottle. Let's rehearse. Music from the car stereo. Yeah. Like, let's go. We do that for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But today's day and age, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the relationships, as a manager, as an artist, how do you start?
I mean, look, nowadays, it whether people like it or not, and they like to hear it, it's social. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest because you actually don't need resources, right? You can, if you have a phone, you have a camera, you can record yourself, you can do your own TikToks, you can do your own reels, you can do all of that. That is your platform to get your voice and your songs. And, that is how most people are now getting discovered. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, that's better because you can do it, right? You need very little resources to get going. Now, I know artists get frustrated because they're like, well, great, me and hundreds of millions of other people are doing the same thing. That's where it's like, you got to hope your songs and your voice and, what you're writing and what you're saying cut through the noise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it is a little bit like winning the lottery sometimes. Like, there is no one way to do it, because if there was, people, they would all do the same thing.
All the time.
So it is a crapshoot.
It's even a crapshoot for artists that are more established. We have it with our own artists where one day everything is working on TikTok. The algorithm is just feeding you their stuff and it's working. And then all of a sudden, maybe a new song or something, whatever, it just ain't working.
Right.
And you're like, why? And we're not like, everyone always asks, like, how are you? Like, there's not like one like cookie cutter way for each artist. It's all very different. We're not like, oh, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. We're almost like, your guess is as good as mine. Like, I don't know why it's not working. There's stuff that is out of our control and out of the artist's control. But I like to think that the best part of social media is usually like the real talented, like the real talent.
They cut through.
Yeah.
If you have, and you're persistent, it would be hard for me to think that like, if Billie Eilish or Olivia were unknowns today, that they couldn't break through. Because I think they will. Even Stapleton, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to think that either talented songwriters, talented singers, like, I'd like to think that if they were persistent and they figure out what their fans or their, the people, their followers want.
Yeah.
I like to think that the cream rises to the top.
Yeah. And you got to be dedicated to it. I mean, even if you didn't have even if you didn't have social media, you still got to be dedicated to this, right? So let's say 10 or 15 years ago, right? I mean, I don't have TikTok, I don't have Instagram, but I have to show up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not showing up, then the people who have invested in me are not going to want to invest further in me, right? The songwriters, the producers, the label, the management. It's like, listen, if I can't get you out of bed, then what are we doing, right? So same thing today as well. Now, to your point, you have the resources, right? You got to show up.
Gotta show up.
And now I think it's a double-edged sword, because yes, hundreds of millions of artists now in the world who think that they can make it in some kind of breakthrough with one thing that kind of goes crazy, right? And then you have other artists who never break through. But I mean, at the same time, 10, 15 years ago, you still had hundreds of millions of artists, but you just only had a couple that were actually getting signed.
Yeah, and it was still a little bit luck of the draw, right? Like you had to do that
Still luck
one
of the draw.
showcase where the one A&R person from the one record label showed up and was like, I think you're good enough that I'm going to bring you to my label and we're going to sign you. Like, think about the odds of that.
Okay, tell me your story in that, because when you were working with Joey, that's a crazy story of how that happened, in my opinion, with working with Nickleback and doing so. For those who don't know, you were doing front of house for Nickleback back in the day in a certain year.
Yes.
Don't mention the
Don't mention the year. It's in the NDA. No. And then you were managing Joey.
Yeah. So I went right from high school. I wanted to become an engineer and a producer.
Yeah.
That was kind of my dream and goal. And I'd known that for a while. So when I graduated, I went to recording school for 2 years, and I learned how to become an engineer and a producer. And that's what I thought I was going to be.
Yeah.
And I got a job at a local recording studio in Vancouver. And one of the first acts that I ever recorded was Nickelback. And they had just moved from Alberta to Vancouver. And he recorded some demos.
They're from Alberta?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were from Vancouver this whole time.
No,
Okay.
I had Alberta. And we'd record some demos. And then they asked me to come and mix their live sound for them.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I was kind of like
how much they paid you.
getting nothing. Literally nothing.
Experience. You got an experience, man.
That's what I'm saying. He was ready to work.
Ready to go. And actually on that point,
Hell yeah.
I went and bought a pickup truck so bands would hire me to move their gear so I could go mix their sound.
Oh,
And I said for free so I could learn.
yeah.
And so I started doing that. And then these artists would come in the studio and they're like, hey, we're playing this weekend. Do you want to come mix and do our live sound? So I started slowly learning and do live sound more and more. And then these artists would be like, hey, we're going to Toronto and back. We're going across Canada and back. Do you want to do our sound and tour manage us? So I started tour managing. And that's how I kind of like transitioned from studio to the road. And then Nickelback got signed.
That live feeling.
And it was, I loved it.
Yeah, that live feeling.
It's why
different.
artists are artists and why Mick Jagger still plays live.
Yeah.
You can't replace it.
Yep.
You can't replace it. So that was the beginning of Nowhere Studio and touring and doing live sound I was with them for 12 years after that.
Yeah. And then you had just, it was an experience, I think you were managing a producer. It was.
Yeah. So then in like 2005,
Yes. Yeah.
Nickelback was coming off the road.
Yeah.
And we had like a year off, and their producer at the time was Joey Moi. I started managing Joey, and this band from Oklahoma had called me and said they wanted to work with Joey. So they drove up to Vancouver, and there was this rock band called Hinder. That was the first band I started managing. So
Yeah.
that was now my next transition to go, I don't necessarily want to be on the road as much. I'm kind of overdue live sound and tour manage.
Yeah.
I want to go into the real business side. So I started managing Hinder, and I was managing Joey. And thankfully, Hinder did very well, and they took off.
Yes, they did.
But Nickelback still wanted me on the road, so Nickelback agreed to take Hinder out on the road with them, so I could still stay with Nickelback. So
What's that conversation like when you're like, listen, I'm managing now, and they're like, no, you're not. You're coming on the road.
Yeah, literally, that was a conversation. They're like, great, we'll bring him on the road then.
That's amazing.
That's okay. So that was how we got it.
But what are the chances of that? I'm just thinking about that. Is that just like all of a sudden you're working with Hinder and they say, we love you, but you still got to come on the road with us. And let's take your band as well on the road too. Like those are.
I think it's chance for Chief.
It's wild.
I also think that when you work your ass off, right? Clearly, Chief proved himself on the road, and we deal with it all the time. You make decisions all the time. Was Nickelback ready to lose Chief? Absolutely not. So for them, they're like, great, we get Chief. What do they care bringing Hinder on the road?
Right.
I wasn't there, but I'm just saying, like, all you look for in business is good people, right? You look for, it is hard to find, like, when you're not in a meeting, we talk about this all the time, we're trying to hire people. Are they going to do the thing we would want to do when we're not there? Yeah. In terms of just, like, how they hold court and all this, make the right decisions. So for Nickelback, I think that's probably, at the time, a very easy decision. Take this band. Were they unknown at the time?
Yeah.
Unknown band. You still get to keep our tour manager. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And he proved himself. It's like, this thing ain't going to work without him, so might as well just put his band on there.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's just a smart decision by Nick.
That's a great decision by Nickelback. Yeah, exactly.
And then fast forward, now we manage them.
And now you manage them. Yeah. What was that like to come back full circle and manage them?
I mean, that was interesting because they had, I guess it was about a year and a half ago.
Longer, maybe.
Actually, no, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
They had, so they're with their original manager for 20 plus years.
Right.
I mean, and honestly, like, no issues. Like, it wasn't like a bad breakup. Everyone's still friends.
Yeah.
But I think they had kind of like hit a wall a little bit. Like, are we actually going to keep going on, or are we just done? And, COVID had hit, and it's just kind of like their last album did fine. Their last tour did fine. It was kind of like that moment of like, do we just call it a day, or do we maybe make a change and see if there's some new blood would maybe come in and give us a shot, maybe change things up. And so they decide to part ways and go find new management. I think it was one of their first calls, but their first call to me was not to manage them. The first call to me was to let me know that I'm not going to be their manager.
Yeah, I remember we were in the office, and I think it was Chad or Mike called.
Yeah.
And
it was a very respectful call.
Yeah, because they're like family.
Like brothers.
Yeah.
So I think it was Mike. And Mike had called me and said, I want you to hear from us first. We're looking for new management, but we're not coming to you.
Okay, so you didn't catch wind of it
No.
prior. They're first telling you.
They were just basically saying, we want you to hear from us, but we're not coming to you and we're not coming to Simon because we're too close. We're friends. We're family. We've been doing this forever. What we don't want to do is decide to work together and then have it not work. And then all of a sudden we've wrecked our relationship after 25 years.
Which can happen for sure.
And totally got that.
Yeah. Business and friendship is
It's tough.
Especially after that, there's some decisions and conversations that are tough when you're like management to artists. So I totally got it. I was like, hey, thanks for the heads up. All good. They basically spent the next, I think, 8 to 9 months trying to find a manager. And they met with everybody.
way bigger manager. I mean, let us also say
You probably name it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
There wasn't anybody that wasn't taking a meeting to manage Nickelback.
Of course.
And I just remember they'd gone round and round, and I think more than one person in their world had gone to them and just being like, why are you guys just not at least sitting with these guys? Like, you have a history, he knows you guys, someone you trust. Like, isn't that more important than anything else? And finally, one day they called us and they're like, hey, you guys in LA? We're like, yep. And they're like, you guys want to come over to the Sunset Marquee and have a chat?
Perfect.
And we're like,
Sunset.
great.
perfect.
Yeah.
And we walked in there and they were like,
That was an easy.
what would you do?
What would you do? It was literally like, and you could tell that they had
Really?
other meetings
Okay.
that day.
Yeah.
Like we were
They're
probably the
already booked
last
out.
one. We were like a 5:00 meeting. So we were like, and obviously there's a lot of love there with Chief and them. And it's the first time I'm meeting them. And they're like, just straight up like, I could tell they're tired. They're like, what would you do? And to me, it was easy. I was like, it's an easy sell. It's like, you guys don't need management, period. You're a household name.
Yep.
You can go the rest of your life, sell arenas and all that kind of stuff. But it's 2022. Things have changed. The music industry has changed. Everything's different. You have built-in trust that you can't get with anyone else with him. And then you have me, kind of like younger, thinks outside the box. Like, we can start thinking ways to make, not, I hate the term relevant because they were always relevant, but relevant in the right ether of conversation, where the right people are talking about you, where it's not this outdated thing like doing a late night show doesn't move the needle like doing the right TikTok or even commenting on the right TikTok from the Nickelback account. And it was like, you have the perfect, we've proven our model as managers for new artists. We haven't done it with like, you know, legacy acts or acts have been doing it. So I understood hesitation. But what I said was like, there's no one you can trust more than the guy who's been with you for 30 plus years, at least as a friend or
Very true.
right?
Right.
And then you have someone who kind of looks at things differently. And they were like, okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And we went to dinner.
Yeah.
And then we started managing them a week later.
And they're like, but where would you guys take us? And this is where the full circle moment is really kind of wild for me, is because having grown up with Nickelback and Hinder and doing rock and doing that, and then through Joey, we end up in Nashville, and all of a sudden we're in the country world.
Yeah.
And now we come back to Nickelback, who are now more relevant and bigger in country,
Correct.
than ever.
Not an accident.
So also we're sitting there going,
Yeah.
guys, this is easy because the Baileys and the Nate and the Morgans and the Hart, they all love you guys.
They all love
Or
you.
you grew up listening
I
to
grew up on you guys. They're like, Chad's one of the best songwriters. I'm here because of him. So all of a sudden we're like, all we're going to do is take you and we're going to bring you to where, first of all, you're loved and respected by this new younger generation.
Which they probably don't even. They're not aware,
They
because
have
they think you know, like all the memes and the jokes, the rest of the world, right?
They're still surprised by it.
They have
all the
no
love,
idea.
yeah.
Which is so interesting to see, because it's like, you know, some of the biggest hits ever.
Yeah.
They've been touring forever and been the household name forever. And then you can kind of see, like, I don't know, just like, it's nice to see sometimes where Chad and Mike and Peaks are all like, oh, that's cool. And you think, because like, we're used to firsts all the time with our new artists. We're around for the first this, for the first that. Nickelback, we're not, they've done it all. There's nothing that they can do that, like, in my mind is going to be like, wow. But like the little things,
Right.
that, like the young, cool act being like, oh, I love Nickelback. Oh, Chad is my idol. Like that stuff, seeing it penetrate and seeing it matter, that's cool.
That's a different.
That's a whole
gotta
different
be,
thing.
Yeah, it's a whole.
And
different
it makes me just love the guys, even where it's like, you still care.
thing. Yeah.
If they didn't care, they could have just hung up the jersey, and they're doing just fine, you know, financially.
What I do find interesting about the country genre as well too, and not to say that other genres don't have this per se, but I think specifically here they truly respect the craft and the artistry of it. So it makes sense that someone like a Bailey or someone like a Morgan would be like, yeah, I love Nickelback, because like, regardless of what you think, Chad's a phenomenal songwriter. He's written smashes, not only for him, but for others as well too. So the respect that's there is like, it would make sense.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Country music was always about the music first and foremost,
Yeah.
right? Like, it really was. We talked earlier about culture, but it really was storytelling, and it was lyrics, and it was melodies,
Cash,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
this younger generation of country artists, they grew up on that. So their first instinct is like, I don't know anything about Nickelback, but I know that's a great song.
Yeah.
I love that song. Rockstar is an amazing song. And they don't care. They didn't grow up in like the meme world. So for them, they just went, I love Nickelback. I don't even get it. And then because they're now on socials and they're like, I love Nickelback, this new generation of fans come in and they're like, oh, I'm going to go listen to Nickelback because, or Morgan or Bailey or Nate, they said they love Nickelback, or they got on stage with Nickelback, or they did a Nickelback song, and they look him up and like, these guys are great.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now you go to a Nickelback show and you've got like these 20-year-old college kids
Yeah.
who are discovering Nickelback for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're like, we love these guys.
I remember
That's crazy to say.
No,
like,
it's crazy.
discovering them for the first
Yeah.
time.
100%. 2 years ago, we were at Stagecoach, right?
Right.
And we've become very close with Sabrina and Stacy, who run Stagecoach, and we had a couple artists playing at that time with Bailey and Nate, and we were telling them, we were like, I'm telling you, Nickelback on Stagecoach would destroy. And it wasn't an immediate yes by any means. We had to convince them a little bit, because for them,
It's a risk.
it's a risk, and their Stagecoach is at the time. This is before Beyonce and Poe. This is 2 years ago, so before everyone started infiltrating.
Could be novel almost,
Right?
right? Yeah.
And I was like, we were both like, just trust us. I'm telling you, Nickelback would kill it here. So we went. They were doing a Guy Fieri does this like cookout thing.
Okay.
And Bailey was his guest, right? They were cooking and all that kind of stuff. And Guy Fieri goes to Bailey, goes, okay, let's do like a karaoke thing with you. And there's like, I don't know, 5,000 people in the crowd. What's your favorite song? And he goes, Nickelback. And they started to play it, and him and Guy Fieri were singing Nickelback, and we both looked at Stacey and Sabrina and were like, told you.
5,000 people singing.
Singing Nickelback at
wow,
Stagecoach,
okay.
at a cookout. And then
The same Stagecoach that you guys are trying to tell them, like, Nickelback will
exactly.
crush.
And they thought that we like planned it with Bailey. So I was like,
That's what I was just thinking
you,
right now.
I
That's what I was just
promise you,
thinking.
although
That's a good
Bailey's a
artist.
great company man,
Yeah.
he did not plan this. He did not plan this. And
That's
then we
awesome.
booked them for this year, and it was honestly one of the highlights of Stagecoach this year was them playing the late night Palominos. I think it was the biggest crowd they've ever had on the Palominos.
And Jelly got up, and Hardy got up.
Performed with them.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, talk to me, because you're saying you're coming from a different angle. You're not from you don't necessarily come from the music business. You came from. Tell me, you go into it. Where you came from?
So I grew up in San Francisco, and then I went to school here at SC, and I did the business program, and I loved being an entrepreneur. It was just like starting things and building them from scratch, or investing in other entrepreneurs. It was always kind of like a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I was working with different artists, like not just from music, but athletes, and I was doing investments with them and working on creating companies with them, and I loved it, right? I started some of my own stuff too, and it was great. And then this was in like 2017, 2018, I was working with a music management company. We started like a fund together, and we were investing in different companies and brands, and I started working with the actual like artists.
Yeah.
And I really like the side that I was exposed to, because all of a sudden, like, I'm here talking about like, oh, we should do this deal with this tequila brand, and I brought this tequila brand, and we should do a deal and whatever, we should write a check and invest and get equity. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm in a meeting, and all of a sudden we're like, they're talking about music, and they're talking about like the label deal and the pub deal, and I'm honestly, I'm just like, I like to learn. I'm a sponge. I'm fascinated by things I don't know, and I want to, if I'm in on something or I don't know something, I want to learn about it. And I was just kind of like, I don't know, fly on the wall in these meetings. I really started to like it. And I liked the side that I wasn't really touching there. And then my lawyer at the time, well, still our lawyer, but at the time he was like, I don't know, I think you belong in this world. You like it, all of a sudden. And my lawyer was the same lawyer as Chief's lawyer. And he was like, you guys look at the world the same way. You have the same value system. You do business the right way. And both do business the right way. And that was the biggest thing. Because, there's a lot of people who are good at business, but
there's a lot of different ways to do the business here,
especially in the music industry, right?
Yeah.
And I was just interested in entertainment. And Chief had an existing relationship with Mike Orpino at Latin Nation. And Chief was like, let's go sit with
Canadian Mafia.
Yeah, true.
Let's go.
Thunder Bay, right?
Thunder Bay, man.
I'm not Canadian,
That's
but
it.
I know
Thunder
all the
Bay,
places.
17
I don't-
hours of Toronto.
I fly so much to Canada, I don't know where anything is on the map. Like, I'm like, Chief, where's Calgary? Like, how far is this?
Oh, you know
I
now,
don't know.
though, yeah.
But now I know a little bit better. And we sat down with Michael, and Michael is what I love about Michael. Michael empowers the entrepreneur. Because at the time, Chief was leaving his situation.
Right.
We had no clients, right? There was nothing.
Oh, you had no clients
We
at
had
this point?
nothing.
Really?
No clients.
Okay.
And COVID.
And COVID was about to hit. We didn't know it was about to hit, but it was about to hit.
Oh, shit. Okay. I thought you were coming over with, wow.
No, we had zero clients,
Impressive.
zero employees. We had nothing.
Yeah, no
And we
employees.
sat down with
That's
Michael.
phenomenal.
And obviously, Michael,
Wow.
he knew me a little bit.
Yeah.
And knew stuff that I was working on. But he obviously knew Chief from his big loud stuff.
Yeah.
And we sat and we're like, we have an idea. We don't know what it is, but we know that we can be in management. We can be strategic investors. We can touch this and sports and bring kind of entertainment all together. But we need you to be our partner. And right away, I mean, Michael, I think I remember him always saying, he's like, I don't care about the artists, the clients, because at the end of the day, I invest in you guys.
And the managers.
Artists will fire you, or one day they'll quit the industry, or it'll be, but at the end of the day, it's you two. And I just remember, I'm like, that's the kind of partner that I'm looking for. And he just believed in us when we had nothing. COVID hit, and Chief and I were like, I was here, he was in Vancouver. We were talking every day, ideas of what we're gonna have. And at some point, a few months in, we we're both like, let's start traveling. Like, we're not fearful. We weren't that fearful at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were careful, but not fearful. We started going to Nashville, and we started going on. We joked that we were on private jets, but they were Southwest. Just no one else.
no one else. Just you two are there. Yeah,
Just us two going.
Yeah.
And we just started because COVID never hit Nashville.
Right. That's true. And Florida. Yeah.
And we started going there and kind of just like slowly but surely just meeting with writers and artists and just, Chief already obviously had a name in Nashville. He's been doing it there. And I was kind of the outsider, and we were just kind of starting building this thing brick by brick by brick. And then we signed.
Okay, so at this point, you've done the deal with Live Nation.
Yeah.
You've done this. Okay.
Done the deal with Live Nation. Michael was like,
how long did it take?
It was quick.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically just said, go.
He said,
He'll start building it.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever you guys.
Michael's the kind of guy, I think he's so smart and like sees the big picture.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and also I think when you're the CEO of a publicly traded company, he doesn't let anything slow him down. If he likes something, wants something, he just like, go. So once he gave us the green light, we don't take that lightly. If someone believes in you and puts money behind you, it's a big deal. I always say to people, like, when entrepreneurs and young people who, and this is good for your listeners, like, if you take someone else's money, that's a big responsibility.
Big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That means that person believes in you, believes in your idea. Because at the end of the day, like, when we invest in companies, we invest in a lot of companies, it's not about the idea or the product. It's about the
person.
It's the person.
It's the person that's CEO of the company, yeah.
We don't take it lightly that he believed in us when we had nothing.
Yeah.
We had nothing, to be clear. No artists, no employees, nothing. And so once he gave us the green light and we were like, let's go build something. And obviously, like, hard work, but also need a little luck too.
Sure.
You need a Bailey Zimmerman on TikTok.
Yep.
You need a friend of ours finding Nate Smith, begging to play shows, and be like, you should check this guy out. You need a little bit of luck on top of your hard work.
Yeah.
And then we just got a little momentum, and I think it's been almost 5 years plus since we started this thing.
Yeah.
And
Nonstop.
Nonstop. No, for sure. But you're knocking on a lot of doors. You're putting the word out. What's the process? You say you go down to Nashville on your private jet, and then you go. That's how I feel every time I fly to Winnipeg.
A15.
No, I'm joking.
Whatever the boarding.
No, a lot of it was reconnecting.
Okay, yeah.
Because, like Simon said, he had not been in Nashville much, and when I was there, I was with Big Loud, and everything was internal, right? We had our own publisher, our own record company, our own management company. So we just moved, and we just did things how we did it, and it was great. But once we were starting from scratch, it was like, okay, we need to go around and talk to all the managers, all the publishers, all the record labels. We need to reconnect with everyone in town and be like, we're starting this new venture, and we're looking for artists, and we're looking for employees, and we're looking for opportunities. And it was so quick at how people reacted and were like, oh, this is great. And we'd love to work with you, but you're at Big Loud, and
right.
We're happy to work with Simon. This is great. You guys should come in here more. And it just started happening quick, where people are like, check this artist out. We have this person. What about this songwriter? You guys thought about doing this? You guys want a partner in this? You guys want a JV on this? And all of a sudden, it just started coming to us. So then we were able to kind of sit back and be like, okay, let's pick who we want. Let's start building our company. Let's start staffing appropriately.
Yeah.
And we just kept going.
Where do you start with the staff? Well, first of all, that's amazing. Congratulations, you guys. Amazing to hear that you started from nothing and now 4 or 5 years later, just absolutely guns a-blazing. The hockey stick, so to speak, right?
Canadians.
Curve. Canadians, right. But I think what I take away from that is, listen, good relationships happen because you're good people, right? So you're able to go back around and knock on doors and tell people, first of all, you're able to partner with Live Nation because Michael saw something in you guys, the work ethic, the smarts, the ability to actually build the relationships and the networks. Yeah. Now you go to Nashville, and then you're also knocking on doors and saying, hey, this is what we have. Because you do good business and do good work, people want to get involved with you. And they've seen your success, your track record. They know about, if you guys are partnered up, it must mean a good thing.
Yep.
Right? So now people are coming in, knocking on doors. I think that's amazing for the viewers who are watching to know, just do good business.
Yeah.
Be good people. You don't get, I truly believe this. I think some sure will slip through the cracks, but in this day and age, in 2024, you can't be a piece of shit.
Can't agree with you more. Don't cut the corners.
Don't cut the corners. Yeah, don't.
We could have cut corners. I promise you. There were times where, you know, every entrepreneur is going to be able to make a decision that you know is short-sighted.
Yeah.
But long term, it's a bad decision.
Yeah.
And we knew the power. We weren't that young when we started. This is only 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We knew. We've been through trials and tribulations. We knew the power of no is important.
Super.
The power of saying like, nah, I know that might make sense today, but 2 years from now, we're going to be paying for saying yes to that situation. And we went with that notion. We both agree with that. Saying no today is smarter. That's control what you can control, right? And I think that young people who start this, like, it's so easy to get caught up. I think recently we ran into this young manager, and he's got an artist that's like, it's going well quickly, but like very quickly. And I remember us talking to him, and, you know, I'll just say that person's feeling themselves a little bit as a young manager, a little momentum. And we said to them, you know, I was like, just remember the power of no. Because this thing could go, if we said yes to everything Bailey or Nate were offered from day one, I promise you, they would not be where they're at today.
Totally.
And we try to put that on the artist too, because at the end of the day, we can give them advice, but if they say, I'm doing this no matter what, at some point we're going to relent. I'm going to be like, okay, it's your decision.
Yeah, of course.
So we really push that on our artists to be like, think about this long term. If you want to play stadiums and you want to be enshrined in the Rock and Roll Country Hall of Fame one day, whatever it is, let's think long term. And Chief and I, that's how we do business. We didn't cut any corners. We don't screw anyone over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you talked about it too, like the work ethic. Like if you say you're going to show up, show up. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Respond to emails, respond to texts, return phone calls, communicate. And I actually feel like, and again, because we've been doing it for a while, I look at the younger generation, I feel like we know the cheat code. Like I go to our younger staff, and when we talk to them, we're like, if you do things the right way, you're going to have an amazing career, because you're going to pass people so quick because they're not doing it. They're not responding to emails. They're not showing up on time. They're not doing the work that they said they're going to do. If you do all those things, you're going to fly.
Yeah.
And so to me, sometimes it sounds weird that it's an advantage nowadays just to like
work hard.
I always say that we get so many resumes right now. We have a team almost going to be 20 people.
Our fleet here. How many do you have here?
3 total here.
Okay. And
then Nashville, like 15, 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And our first employee now was our assistant at the time.
Yeah.
And now he runs our producers division. Like in general, 90+% of our employees have leveled up and have been promoted because they find something that they love.
Yeah.
Publishing, records, management, whatever it is, creative, marketing. We love, that's the stuff that we love. We love seeing the growth within our company.
Yeah.
We love to see someone and we don't care, resumes there's so many people with great resumes, but like the same thing with artists where we don't care about the algorithm and all that stuff. We've hired people with no history in the industry.
Yeah.
But we've seen them either how hard they work. Taylor Mans, who you saw, who's now Nate's day-to-day.
Okay.
Just here. She was our second employee, and she didn't even apply. We were on a music video shoot for an artist that we used to manage, and she was like the assistant to the assistant just for that one day. And we just both noticed how she like maneuvered like on set, where like you wouldn't even have to think, and she was doing stuff before she was even asked.
Yeah.
We hired her the next day.
Yeah.
You never know.
I had the same thing when first time we were doing a press run, and we were doing a promo run in New York City with Jesse.
Yeah.
And this kid, it's gonna kill me with the name station. Maybe it was Power, I don't remember. But we go and we do an interview in New York, and this kid who's working there, been there for X amount of years, super nice, super accommodating, very helpful. And I'm watching this kid, and I'm like, man, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later or so, I put out online that I need an assistant.
Yeah.
And then to your point, I got hundreds of emails. I opened 2, and I was like, nah. And then when he reached out to me,
You remember.
right away, I was like, and this is Cello, shout out to Cello. And I said, oh, you're looking for a job? And I happened to be in New York at the time. I was like, let's link up. And we grabbed lunch. I was like, yeah, like let's do this. And that was it. It was just good dude.
you
And he
knew-
was he was my assistant, my EA for a couple of months. We figured his strengths were better for his assistant for Jesse.
Yeah.
And he was with the team for like 5 years.
Yeah.
He was amazing. And it wasn't based off of the resume. It wasn't because he was in this music. It was just good guy who was really hungry,
Worked hard,
always working hard,
responsible.
super responsible.
We always say to people, you know, when we're hiring, and they're like, I want, you know, this generation is a little bit different, that like a day after they start their job, they think
Tell me
they can
more.
be the CEO.
They
But
could
I
bring
s-
you the presentation.
Yeah, I'd say, we always say, if you do the job that you have today
Yeah.
incredibly well, the best you can, I promise you, we will see
go
it.
far, yeah.
We will notice it.
Yeah.
We don't miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Be great at what you do today, and don't worry about in 1 year, in 2 years, in terms of like your job.
Yeah.
If you're an EA, be the best EA you can be.
Yeah.
And I promise you, you will move up.
For sure.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It really is that simple.
It's
There's
true.
like Nickelback brought Hinder on tour because they knew they could not get another tour manager like Chief.
Right.
He proved he had his job. His job was being a tour manager. So he was the best tour manager he could be. And they were like, great, we will do anything to keep you and then move you up. And I'm sure there was compensation and this and all that stuff because he showed them his worth.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking of Nickelback, I wanted to go back to this. When you're telling them, hey, you have no presence on TikTok, lean into this.
You adapt to each artist.
Yeah.
They're so big. They're so like successful.
Yeah.
You have to, it's different than telling some unknown who doesn't post enough on TikTok. You're telling someone who's like, have all the accolades. And I'm looking, you know,
Don't need a label, don't need management. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they could just put up tickets and people will buy them.
Yeah.
You have to adapt to knowing who you're talking. Like if you want to go to the next level, if you still want to do this, this is the modern day music industry. We have to at least dip our toe. I'm not,
Yes.
what we always say to them is like, no one's asking you to do dances. No one's asking you to sell out on TikTok.
And people think that immediately,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And they did too. At
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
they
yeah.
were like, we don't do TikTok. In fact, they don't do social media. They're like, well, because it never helped them, right? Because of the negativity and the memes and stuff. They're like, press and PR was only ever a bad thing for us. So leaning into
Why would I go and do this?
Why
Yeah,
would I
yeah,
go
yeah.
do
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
But what we again had to just educate them on was like, but there's this world out there that doesn't care about the memes. They do love you guys. There are trends. They had songs that were trending on TikTok massively, and they had no idea. And we're like, if you just, like Sam said earlier, if you just lean into that person and comment and be like, this is great, or repost, or just, you know what I mean? Just acknowledge that. Thank you to our fans for loving our music. This is amazing. Just those little things. And they basically, look, they said, we trust you guys. You guys know what you're doing. If you guys tell us we should do this, we're going to do this. Basically, don't make us look bad. And, you know, it worked. We were very strategic and careful about how much we went in, where we went in, what we posted. But, you know, you can do a lot of things on TikTok that are cheesy. You can do things that like help your brand, build your brand, play new music, bring them into your journey, tour dates, backstage footage, all that stuff. So we just started like bringing in fans into the journey of Nickelback. And it was never about like a viral moment.
You're right.
It was just about introducing Nickelback to those fans and those fans to Nickelback.
Consistently.
Yes.
Because there's 25 million fans on there that they're not aware that are there.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're reactivating those fans. What are where did you start there? Like what, if you could remember?
I remember early on, you remember, what was the influencer's name in Canada that we got?
Oh, Call Me Chris.
Call Me Chris.
Call Me Chris.
I mean, I think, I don't want to mess up her numbers, but it was like 30 million followers or something, even maybe bigger.
I think it was like 50.
There you go. Sorry for getting the number.
Sorry.
But it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't remember how we figured out, but we figured out she was a Nickelback fan. And all of a sudden she posted something
About Nickelback.
And like, when we're coming into this, like, we're assuming this is happening all the time, but they just weren't equipped to like jump on those things, or they didn't want to, or they didn't even know about it. So when she started engaging some Nickelback stuff, we were like, oh, we need to jump in on this. And we need to comment on her post about she was either listening to a Nickelback song or whatever lip syncing it, whatever it was. And we started commenting. There was conversations back and forth. And all of a sudden,
We sent her some
In
we
public?
sent her merch.
In public or DM?
DM.
Okay,
no,
DM.
public.
Public. Okay,
Both.
yeah.
Public and DM. And all of a sudden, we sent her some merch. She posted the merch. And all of a sudden, she's starring in their music video that we shot in Vancouver. And it's like, and she's posting all the behind the scenes. And like, we were realizing that's getting to more followers than you playing the Fallon show, right?
100%.
That's getting to more people that like probably never, some people never even heard of you that follow her. And all of a sudden, it's like they saw, and Chad and her did some amazing like TikToks together that were like really funny,
Like making
really
fun of Nickelback.
making fun of Nickelback, making fun of like they were in on the joke, and it worked. And they started seeing like, oh, this is driving engagement in something we've never really like dipped our toes in before.
Fans loved it because even their fans who've been with them since the beginning, they're like, we've never seen this side of Nickelback, where they're like, they're funny.
They're super funny.
They're actually in on the joke.
Very funny.
It was
It makes you endearing. And sorry, not to cut you off, but I think, especially in this day and age, what you guys know is like authenticity is everything. You can't pretend to be something else. That's why I kind of get annoyed with the term industry plant. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense in this day and age.
Who created that?
It doesn't work. It
doesn't
just
work.
doesn't work, right? That just means like, okay, we have people there's a lot of people that are excited, partners. They want to invest into this and they want to amplify it if a song or an artist is getting bigger. So you call that an industry plan? It makes no sense. You have to be authentic. You have to be real. So the fact that they lean into that, and now on social media, the people can see that, it's like, you know what? I actually like these guys. And you turn a lot of people.
That's exactly what it was, because before social media, and they were never in on it, whatever you read, whatever you heard, whatever was said, that's all you knew.
And that might be Bible for a lot
so
of people.
you
You believe it. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden people are like going, well, wait, I just saw Nickelback do this TikTok. They're hilarious. Whatever people say, I don't see that. I don't get that. So now we start to control our own narrative, because we could control what the guys were saying and doing on socials, and we're like, just be yourselves.
Exactly.
Which was so nice. And I think they honestly felt relieved about it, because they're like, oh, when we're ourselves, people love us. And I'm like, yes, because you guys are great guys. You just got painted a really bad picture sometimes.
And today we had a call with a young artist that we're working with, and she's got a little momentum behind her. And we told her, it was like, don't just post the songs, post personal stuff. Yeah. Post that dog of yours that people love. Post some stuff so people feel connected to you as a human being, because we talk to all our people at Instagram or TikTok or all the socials. If your page feels like it's just constantly you pitching songs, like, you're not going to get engaged fans the way you think. Mm-hmm. Show them your personality. Show them the things, the quirks that you have. Show them the food that you like. That stuff, because then when they see it, they feel like they know you. That's the biggest pro of being in 2024.
Yeah.
Is like, because it used to be like, I love this artist. I know nothing really about their personal life.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, I know Josh or Bailey or Nate's favorite food.
Yeah.
I know that Bailey's dog Marley. So when they're on stage singing that song, like, I feel like I could connect to him.
And I'm sure they bring things to the show, like they were the Air Forces, for example, right? At the show, because
They
of
all
that.
do.
Yeah.
All the signs that come, every show Bailey gets gifts for his dog. Every meet has someone brings treats, and you know what I mean? Like, because they feel connected.
At this day and age with things moving so fast, right? And then you're getting a hit out of nowhere, okay? How does this company react? What are you guys doing in that moment?
Look, you go.
Well, I was going to say it's a couple of things. As we always say, every artist is different, right? So the thing that you still have to be strategic. So even though things move quickly, you also still have to think like, what's the next move, and what's the next move, and what's the next move, right? And we try to pride ourselves on building career artists, arena acts, stadium acts. So as much as things move quickly, we try not to knee jerk. We try to like make the right decision. And sometimes you got to pivot quickly and be like, that song's reacting. We do have to go in the studio and record it and get it out because the fans are demanding it. So let's not wait. But then there's other times where like, we have a song on the radio. We don't want to put it as a song. It's actually going to hurt that song. We're actually just going to take a breather and we're going to be okay. And we're going to promote that. As soon as that dies, we'll get this. So a lot of it is just like,
How do you know
I mean,
what to do there?
sometimes it's instinct.
Gut? Yeah.
Sometimes it's
A lot of
sometimes it's gut. Sometimes it's like, in the 5 years we've been doing this, we have learned a lot, you know, where we're like, oh, let's go chase this. And we're like, oh, that didn't work. You know,
To be clear, many of them.
Yeah.
And I think we've been really good at that, at like our staff and looking at things and being like, why did that work? And that didn't work. And that worked at that time. And we tried to recreate it and it didn't work. And the beauty of like socials, DSPs is, you know, analytics. And we never had analytics before, not to this degree.
I'm obsessed.
Well, of course,
I'm
it can
obsessed.
of course,
Yeah.
it can help. It can be a real
Crazy not to use it.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
So on like a, you know, a small level, we can look at Bailey and we can go, okay, you just released, you know, you just had 4 number ones at radio and now we're going to radio with your 5th. We can look at every single song, at how many weeks and how many posts, what was the engagement, what was the timeline, how long was it out before we went to rate. You can just sit there and you can be like, okay, this worked for that did not work, or we should have done that more for here because we skipped that step or we missed it. So yes, some of it's gut, some of it's instinct for sure. But look, a lot of it's like, you gotta do your homework, you gotta do your research, and it's like, follow the trends. But every artist is different. So just because that artist released 10 songs in a month doesn't mean you should, because that might do nothing
Good
for
point.
you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Can you give me an example of something where you said, okay, this is where we had to pivot here. Here was a record and this went this
World
way?
on Fire.
World on Fire is a great example.
Yeah. So
Talk to me.
so we had recorded Nate Smith's record.
Yep.
16 songs on it. And we literally just released his album. And we were working Whiskey on You was at radio. And we released his 16-song first album. And, you know, think of like the press and the setup and the time and the effort putting this record out. Whiskey on You was at radio, doing very well. And everything's like, great, Nate's going to go on tour, here we go.
And you delivered it months ahead of time.
Of course.
And it's
For those who don't know, you deliver a record 4 to 6 months ahead of time. You set up the press, because you got to get vinyl in the first week, right? And so that takes some time, right? So go ahead.
And then all you need the artist to do is then promote that record.
Yes.
So you go online and you promote your current single, you can promote songs from the album, and you just want to get engagement, so people go listen and buy the record. And Nate didn't tell any of us, and all of a sudden
we were not part of this team.
we wake up and Nate's online and he's teasing a song that's not on the record. And the record had just came
That's
out.
awesome.
And all of a sudden,
for all the right-hand road reasons.
And
Yeah,
it's working.
right?
The tease is
that's
working.
okay.
And the record label's calling us.
That's where you can't get mad.
And they're going,
Yes.
well, they were mad.
For sure,
They're sitting there going,
They got a right to be
will
mad.
yeah.
Lucian was pissed. No, I'm telling you.
He's on Sony.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on Sony. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
So we're sitting there, and look, the song. At first, we're like, sure, but what do you do? All of us were like, and he's like, guys, this song's a smash, but it's not on the record.
He told you guys that.
Yeah,
He knew it. That's to his credit.
so-
He knew it.
Why
It was in
didn't
his gut.
he put it on the
happened
project?
late.
Okay, happened after you delivered it.
The record was out.
Yeah.
The record had just dropped. It's out physically.
Yeah.
You can go buy it. And literally the next week, he's like posting this song, and now all the fans are like, "Where's this song?" And we're like, "Nate, we need them to go buy this record." And he's like, "I don't care. The song's a hit. Song's a hit. Song's a hit." And it started reacting like crazy. Like you talked viral. This song was just every time we posted it through the roof. So then, pivoting, we then go, okay, how do we get this song out? So we got Sony. We're like, well, let's drop a deluxe record. Let's add 4 more songs, and this is one of them. And we literally
Smart.
went,
Very smart.
cut
Okay,
very
okay.
quickly, and literally released a deluxe package only because of this song.
Yeah.
Put World on Fire and 3 other ones on,
Oh.
released it, and then now World on Fire is the biggest song.
10-week number one.
Well played.
10-week number one.
But
Well
so
played.
that's a perfect example of like unplanned.
Yeah.
We didn't know he was going to even post it. He didn't even check. We never even heard the song. But then that's also the beauty of the world we live in, where you could post a song, the audience says, I need that song. You can record it, drop it, and it became a 10-week.
And that's a great example of, for our people listening, for managers or aspiring managers, trusting your artist. Because I can tell you, I remember a lot of those conversations where Chief and I were playing devil's advocate and be like, Nate, you can't do this.
It's going to hit the record.
Everything. And he was relentless with us. And at some point, as managers, you're like, okay, I mean, this is his body of work. This is his career. If he's that adamant, he must be right. Or if he's wrong, it's on him.
Yeah.
Right.
But let's go and help him facilitate this. And he proved everyone right.
Became his biggest record.
Yeah. Biggest record of his
Biggest record. It'll go down as one of his biggest in his career.
How much after did you put out the deluxe when he was doing this?
Not long.
But not long. I think it was within probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Like we had to move quick.
Yeah.
Because the song
Because you know how it goes. The TikTok
course.
fans are pissed. You know,
Yeah.
once they hear something they like and then they can't get it, and you keep like, you know, he'd be like, look at this comment, look at this comment, and then you're like, and then he was right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's amazing to see, and we were talking about this the other day, but it's amazing to see, and maybe it's just from where I'm sitting because I'm not actively involved in the genre. Yes, I have artist management, but to see an artist go from a local bar
Yeah.
to a stadium. Am I bugging when I see that, or is that actually happening where within 6 months somebody's going to a stadium? And how?
I mean, it never used to. Let's just be honest. Like,
Yeah.
to
In
me,
any genre. Let alone a stadium, first of all.
Nickelback was one of the biggest rock bands ever, and they never played stadium. Now, they would do multiple nights in the same city in an arena, but just the idea of even going into a stadium was like,
And I
just not a thing that people really
and to be clear, arenas and stadiums are different.
very.
Arenas are 14 to 16,000. Stadiums could be 50,
And there's even smaller
60,000.
arenas, right?
There's even the
there's
12,000 or 10,000.
8,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So arena and stadiums are very different for the listeners who are listening. You're talking about 30, 40, 50,000 difference of
Correct.
people.
Yeah.
So go.
Yeah, and I just think it was never really a thing.
Yeah.
I think it was really expensive to put in stadium shows. I think stadiums didn't want, there's sports facilities. They're like, we don't want concerts.
That's fair. Yeah.
And it was just never really talked about, honestly. But I think people are so obsessed with the live music experience now. Ticket sales are bigger than they've ever been. Tours are bigger than they've ever been. And I think that fans are like, they'll discover an artist and they'll hear one song. And if they love that song is now enough for them to be like, I want to go see him play live. And as long as they play that song, I don't care because I'm going with my friends and we're going to have a great time and we're going to drink and we're going to party
Right. Okay.
and we're going to tailgate and we're going to do all the things. And they just want to go out and have fun. And I think, you even see what COVID did. Like, COVID really taught people, like, I don't want to be locked up. I don't want to be at home. I want to go out there and live. And I want to go do things. And I want to, like, experience things. And I just think now everyone's like, I don't care if it's in the stadium. I want to go. There's actually an excitement to be in a room with 50,000 other people singing music.
Feeling the same thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I just think, fans are so open to it now because they just love music. And I think, as much as people, the negatives of social media and stuff like that, but now that every single person in the world has an iPhone or a phone, they can listen to music 24/7 at the drop of a hat.
Sure.
Music is consumed more than ever. And I think that just feeds into like the live touring business.
It's so specific to country music, though. 'Cause you can't do
I
that in
think
other
country
genres.
fans are loyal. Country fans are loyal. We can talk about we've seen.
Yeah, let's talk about the fan of country
Nate
music.
was playing, 100, 150 cap rooms. Bailey was playing just like that, smaller, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, like, if you do it the right way, the growth, it's not 6 months, but if you do it the right way, where Bailey's a prime example of someone who he's on the Morgan tour, the biggest tour in the country, him and Taylor, right? And he's playing to, I would say, a lot of fans, but also new fans, making new fans every single night. And then at the same time, when he's not on that, he's playing his headline run, right? Where he's building it the right way. We're not skipping steps. Theaters, whatever. It doesn't, where we know that he can sell it out, maybe we add a night or we create the demand and he does it the right way. You're hitting it in the big arenas and stadiums with the guys you're opening for. And then you're building your actual loyal day one fan base at the same time. And all of a sudden, like, you just see it building. You see it building. And all of a sudden, we're sitting here planning for 25 and 26 for Bailey. And you're like, damn, he's playing arenas. Like, it's crazy. But he did it the right way. He's building it brick by brick.
phenomenal.
putting new music out and playing to his day ones, and then having new people who love Morgan or Luke Bryan or whoever he's opening for discover him. And that's how it works.
Yeah, and I think because it's working so well in country, I think it does come down to like, you know, when you now go to a country show, you will see from kids
Yeah.
to college kids to young adults to parents to grandparents. And I think it is
Right.
everybody now listens to country.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be 60, 70 years listen to Morgan because it's just great song.
Correct.
And there's nothing offensive about country music. There's nothing offensive about the shows. So I think when you look at what's going on with some of the other genres, I think that this genre now is like appealing to all age groups. And I mean, from young to old. So that's where I think you're able to go into stadiums quicker because you're not relying on like, we only sell tickets to 20-year-olds or we only sell tickets to 50-year-olds because we're a legacy act. Country music can sell tickets to everybody.
Yeah, come to a show and don't look at the stage. Look at the crowd. And you'll be like,
Right.
whoa.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I'm going to the show. I gotta
Anytime.
go. Yeah.
You're our guest.
Appreciate that. That's amazing. It's very accessible. It sounds like.
Very accessible.
Yeah.
And it's like a college football game. It
Right.
starts early. Getting an opening slot on these tours, it's a big deal.
You'll get all the people in there.
You're
Yeah,
not getting 100%, but I'm telling you, you're getting 50 to 60% if you're playing at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs watching you for the first time. Like that kind of exposure is big. And in country, they come early, they're ready, they're rowdy, and they're ready to party.
Yeah.
And they're interested in who the opening acts are.
Well, yeah, because look, Bailey was first to four last year on the Morgan tour, and fast forward this summer, and he's direct support.
Wow.
So he was on at 5 o'clock
5
last
o'clock,
year,
but they saw him.
and now he's on at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a big
You know what I
difference.
mean?
He was
So-
playing at SoFi when the sun was still up. And now he's playing, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
But
Sunset.
he's playing 20-minute set, and now he's playing 55-minute set.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of thing to go that quickly within a year, that is why. Because all those fans that saw him the first time
Yeah.
are like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And now when he goes back there,
And he has a great live show. I can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it. Is it standard, normal, like to do like 4 and then headliner?
and
A stadium tours?
Stadium tours and 4
General?
acts.
4 acts.
Yeah.
That's the standard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I remember when I saw Beyonce, it was just waiting for Beyonce.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, look, at the end of the day, Morgan,
Which is
Beyonce,
whatever they want to
Taylor,
do.
They
Yeah.
don't need any.
They don't need any. Yeah.
They're selling I promise you, Bailey wasn't last year when he was first to four, wasn't helping Morgan sell any tickets. Morgan was selling
I can
just
guarantee
fine
it.
without
Yeah.
Bailey.
He was doing okay.
That's what's cool about these artists. It's like they put each other on too, right? That's also what we try to build in our company.
Right.
Bailey's now a headliner, and his 2 opening acts are other artists, Brandon Wisham and Josh Ross. He's putting you create this camaraderie and like put each other on. Bailey's pay it forward the way Morgan paid it forward with Bailey. Bailey's doing it with acts on the core roster.
How do you guys do that with the core roster where you've had, it's hard enough to have one successful act, let alone 4 or 5, 12 or 13. How are you managing all this? How are
Ask our wives.
by the way, congratulations on the child. Yeah.
Otherwise, I would say not great.
Yeah.
Not great.
We try our best.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly, I would say this.
Yeah.
And Chief will agree and then he'll add, but I would say hiring the right people. It's the number one thing.
Yeah.
We can't be everywhere. We just, as much as we try, we can't. And we can't be part of every decision. I think focusing on getting the right people is number one.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it's no way we could do it. You can't build a company.
Do you have a day-to-day on each artist?
100%.
Yeah.
And is that day-to-day involved on the strategic conversations? Or okay.
Of course.
Yeah, we want everyone to grow and learn. So it doesn't benefit us to be like, hey, you can't be on this. So on all the label conversations, we want you in there.
Yeah, of course.
We want you to learn and then come back after and be like, hey, I didn't understand this. Or I have an opinion. What about this? It's like, so we want to empower it only helps us.
Yeah.
To build a great infrastructure. And then like Simon said, so then if we can't make that meeting, we're like, okay, you got to go in and do that label meeting and then fill us in after. And we know that they're going to handle themselves the right way. And they're going to come back to us and be like, I think this. And we're like, yes.
But it is a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
It's about, I think no matter what industry you're in, we're in the service industry at the end of the day. It's a balance.
That's crazy you're saying that, because last night I went to sleep thinking that no matter what business you're in the service industry. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
crazy.
We're here. We're in the service industry. So at the end of the
100%.
day,
No matter what.
we're trying our best to service our artists in the way they need. And every artist is very different in what they need and how they want to receive the information, how they want to receive advice, what they're like. Just because we have a few artists break in the same time doesn't mean that we did it the same way. They're all so unique.
Yep.
Their stories are unique. How they're doing it is different, very like idiosyncratic from one another. It's very different. And we're just trying to, help as much as we can, help facilitate, but we're spread where you can't be at every show. You can't be in every meeting. You can try, but you can't.
Yeah,
It's
it's
also
impossible.
not productive, right? Like we try to tell them, like, if you want to say it every show, but it's actually going to hurt other parts of your business, because we should be focusing on your next album release and how we're going to do that. But if we're on the road and we're distracted doing that, then we can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is finding that balancing act, and we do try to like set boundaries. You know what I mean? And for everybody, where it's like,
I was gonna say,
I mean, look, there's always emergencies,
more.
there's always 911s, but also we try to, like, on weekends, or like, hey, unless you need us or we need you, it's okay that we like don't talk on Sunday. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's actually good for you as well. And then Monday we'll regroup and get right back into it. So we try, and we do it for our employees. Like, we try to do that for everyone. Like, we know it's a 24/7 job. We all signed up for it,
Oh.
and that is it. But you can also set boundaries where it's like, if something is not urgent and it can wait till tomorrow, let's just handle it tomorrow. So we try to, like, the healthier everybody is mentally, the better everyone's going to operate.
Yeah.
So we want everyone to feel good and to be happy and to wake up every day in a good spot, because then they're going to do better work.
Yeah, absolutely. In today's day and age as well, too, with so much access, everybody's always got a phone in front of them. You can be reached at any point in time. The mental health really does matter. I think.
That's why I think it's harder now, I think, for artists than it ever has been, because of the accessibility, because they can see all the hate really quickly, or they can see the negative. Most artists have that thing where they ignore all the positive stuff and they just focus on the negative things.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah. That's a human thing. Yeah, for
It's
sure.
way harder for someone who's like on stage every night and like they're
gotta
putting
deal with
themselves out there every night.
It's the most vulnerable job you can have in the world, to be an artist. Yeah.
And we really do push our artists to be in therapy. Like, it's important, because we always say, we have a bunch of young artists that we're signing right now to the label, and we're talking to them. It's like, I need you to be right between the ears, more important than anything else, because you're all of a sudden, the dam is just going to break one day, and it's going to be crazy for you. And I want you to be ready for that. Because if you're not ready now, when it's kind of quiet and you're still figuring it, like, there's going to be so many people asking you for things. There's going to be so many things that your management, your label, they're all demanding from you. And you have to be able to be equipped. And a lot of the artists, like, they're creatives. They're not equipped for all that. So for us, we really push them from the beginning, get in therapy, like, figure it out. Let's get you mentally ready, because you're so talented. You have all the gifts, you have all the tools, and put that away. That's easy. But are you ready for the stress and the pressure and, like, sacrificing those Thanksgivings that you used to have at home? You might not have
Those friends who were around before, you can't hang out with them on a Friday,
Also,
Saturday
you don't have
anymore.
time for your family. You don't
Yeah,
need your
that's
parents
exactly
to
for your
push.
parents. Yeah, exactly.
But
But what I love about the core is, and what you guys are telling me about this stuff, is that you guys really care about the artist. You care about the well-being. You care about the mental health. Not every manager's like that, right? Managers, and I think the good ones now, and I think it's changing a lot, but, like, they will do their best to ensure that the mental health of the artist is there. And I think that's missing in a lot of places, especially in this space where you actually are thinking of the well-being. Because they're a person, and you want to make sure that they're good. B, and could be a distant B, it is an investment to ensure that they're healthy as well, too, in the
100%.
business, right? So I really think that that's amazing what you guys do in that process. So, like, kudos to you guys for taking that route.
Look, I think truthfully, that there are still a lot of managers that don't care. Record labels, truthfully, don't care.
Oh.
And booking agents, like, and you're right, it is becoming more of a topic
A conversation,
that people
yeah.
are willing to have. But you know, it is harder than ever, and social media is harder than ever, and the negativity. And it's like, if you don't protect these artists, who's going to?
No.
Right? And
And the manager's the closest,
The closest
to understand
that can-
everything. Yeah. And the most important person in that artist's career
and
is
the
the manager.
history of music has proven over and over and over, if you don't protect these artists, they will just eventually take their lives, or they will quit, or they'll hurt themselves, or they'll hurt somebody else. Something bad will eventually happen because they just can't handle it, because it is that hard. So it's like, how many times does history have to repeat itself before we stop and be like, hey, if we want them to be successful, which we all do, and of course we all want to get paid and make money, that's great. But none of that's going to matter if all of a sudden this person can't do it anymore, or they're hurting themselves, or whatever. So it's like, it is our responsibility. I now believe it's part of our jobs. It is what we're signing up for.
It's true.
And if you don't want to do it, then don't say you're going to manage or help somebody, because that is actually what they need, almost as important as anything else is that part.
And you find yourself doing a lot of that stuff more than doing the actual business.
Yeah.
Truly. We find days we come home and we're like, damn, like we didn't get much done business-wise, but we got a lot done personally with our artists, helping them.
And that goes a long way.
It goes a long way. And we tell our artists, we're there to help you in any way you want. But at the end of the day, we have a ceiling. We're not professionals. We're not professional. You need to talk to someone about, we can give advice and compare it to our own lives or trials and tribulations that we went through.
Right.
But no one, I mean, there's specific therapists in Nashville that are just for artists, because Chief and I never performed on stage before. We don't
There's
know
only so much you can say.
We
yeah.
don't know what the pressure is mounted all we can do sometimes from our perspective is try to help them be in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because things are happening so quickly. You can go from a #1 here, and the next day we're already worrying about the next album and the tour, and there's no one ever sitting being like, so the little things that we control is say, oh, you just had this is a huge moment. Can we just stop everything for a second? Let's just acknowledge what you just accomplished today. Let's be in the moment together.
Yeah.
And then we can move on. And that's some of the little things we try to implement in with our artists. Be in the moment today.
How do you, this is an honest question coming from me actually, because I have a difficult time with this, where how do you balance the work ethic and say have a strong work ethic, but then also some artists might not have the work ethic that you have, and that then could become an issue for their mental health. How do you figure out that balance? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've gone through it enough with our artists you almost like push to see where their threshold is, because they actually don't know, and we don't know. So you kind of just keep going and going and going. And we tell our artists, when it starts to feel like it's too much, because every artist is different, that's when you need to stop and be like, guys.
And you got to say something.
I am tired.
They have to say something.
I am worn out. I am exhausted.
Yeah.
I can't sing, whatever it is. So every artist is different, and you have to it comes back to our job. We have to adapt. There's been many moments where we've stopped, and I've called the record label, and they're like, next week, cancel everything on the books. It's not happening.
Same.
It's not happening.
I'll do it in the middle of a press run if I have to.
And it hurts everyone.
Yeah.
Like, to be clear, it hurts the artists, it hurts us as management. But if we don't put their health first, who cares?
Who cares? And you just have to, and I think that goes back to the last question of being able to have those conversations and being able to call your booking agent and be like, hey, you gotta cancel this weekend of shows. And they're like, what? And you're like, not healthy enough. And they have to be able to be like, got it, get it. I'll handle it, and we'll book them and deal with it later, as opposed to you can't. You have to do it. You don't have to do anything.
Correct.
Nothing is more important than their health, especially if you're talking career. No one's going to look back a year from now and even remember you canceled that weekend of shows.
That's so true.
But that artist who
There
needed that
there
weekend.
might be that one radio promo. You
Yeah.
maybe had a radio. She will
You
remember
might
that.
have to go back and do a free show at some point.
For sure.
You have
Definitely had those
you have
want to
to-
hug it up moments 2 years later.
Of course.
But you have to think big picture, and you have to take care of these artists. You
But
just do.
I'll say
agree.
this to that
I like
question.
that. That's great.
I think it's not like if they don't work hard, and you're talking about the mental health, there are artists who don't want it as bad as their management, right? Because you have aspiring managers watching this, or people like, if you aspiring artists, if you as a manager or an art, if you find yourself working way harder than the artist whose career it is, that's a problem.
Huge.
It is a problem.
It just won't work.
No matter
It won't
what.
work.
It is a problem. You can call and ask for favor. We were asking for favors early on when we started this thing, where we had no real artist. Hey, do you mind doing this and this? But if the artist, and then the artist would come and do and prove themselves. But if the artist is not working hard, not because of mental health, but because they just don't have that in them, honestly, that's a real recipe for disaster.
And we tried.
We tried.
We tried it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've tried it too.
Where it's like,
Doesn't
you know
work,
what?
no matter what.
We'll do it for them. We'll cover it up, or we'll get through it because we know that we can do the work.
How'd that go?
It just never works.
Yeah.
It just never works.
Yeah.
You know.
We'll always be the bad guys.
Yeah.
in that. They'll blame us, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
For sure.
it's a tough situation because it's your career. Like I said before, you're the CEO. You're the CEO. Guide us. You got a team of 20 people ready
Yeah.
to do whatever you want. This is your vision, we'll help facilitate all of that. But you're the head of the snake because this is your career. When an artist goes, I don't want to do that radio interview, you don't have to do that radio interview. It's not going to change our lives if you don't do that radio interview. But I promise you, if you do that radio interview and that radio programmer plays your song, and then there's a domino effect of you doing that affects your career in the positive.
Yeah.
We're not putting a gun to your head.
Yeah.
This is, you chose to be here.
This is what you chose. Yeah, you chose to be here. You said you wanted to show up. I think a lot of people, when they get into this business, whether it's on the manager or the artist side, they think it's all fun.
Of course.
They think
It
it's
ain't.
the best thing in the world.
It ain't.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important to have these conversations, because it's not. Yo, when you get to this and you are now doing 2,000 person show, cap show, 5,000, 9,000, you're doing theaters. Guess what? This is a business now. And you can have fun and you can enjoy those moments, like you get a number one record and you're having a lot of success and you stop and you celebrate and you can have fun. But I think a lot of people get it twisted and they get into this for the wrong reasons because they think it's always going to be the best times.
I think it's like that with almost any job. I remember literally like in grade 10, and it was like one of those like high school moments where it's like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life, you know? And there's everyone in there's like, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a musician, I want to work in music, I want to do this. And the teacher at the time said, okay, this is what each and every one of you need to do. He goes, you want to be a firefighter? I want you to go down to the local fire station this weekend and talk to firefighters and ask them the good, the bad, and the ugly about being that. You want to be a nurse? I want you to go to the hospital and ask a nurse about the hours and about the pay and about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then come back and tell me if you still want to do that. And I thought it was so fascinating because same thing, you want to be a fireman? Everyone's like, oh, that looks like a great job. It's like, do you know how many deaths these people see? Do you know how hard that job is? Do you know how mentally and physically challenging that hard? So maybe you don't want to be a fireman after you actually know what it's really like. And it's no different than being a rock star. Everyone's like, I want to be a rock star. It's like, okay, remove the 1 hour a night you get to play on stage and okay, let's talk about the rest of the week. And then are you prepared for that?
Yeah.
And I always thought that was such a fascinating thing to be like, you want to be a race car driver? Great, you want to drive cars? That's fast. What about the training and the lifestyle that goes with that?
Yeah.
That's
Sacrifices.
where people like,
It's true.
that's where people get lost. And then they show up and then they're in it and they're like, I didn't sign up for this because no one explained to them before. Do you realize how hard it is to have a family
Very fair point.
and go tour
Yeah.
200 days a year and not see your wife and kids?
You have those conversations with the artists?
We have with each.
Yeah.
We have
Early on,
We have.
before you
Well,
get-
we
yeah.
have them before we actually work.
That's what
with
I
them.
mean. Yeah. Before
We
you
have
work with
to.
them, you're having them and you're saying,
Because-
listen, this is how this works.
But it's not even just the artists, right? Like we have,
Oh,
we
yeah,
love our
employees, like,
friends
yeah,
and family.
yeah.
Like they love to come to festivals or shows, and they come. They're like, "This is the best job ever."
Yeah.
And we have
Yeah.
and we have great couple days. And I was like, "Yeah, you're getting the glamorous part. You're seeing our artists. We're having a great
Stagecoach
time.
week is
Stagecoach,
great.
but
Yeah,
no one's talking about that Monday after Stagecoach where we got to take a red eye and we got to do this and take 2 stops and be here and do this.
Yeah.
All this stuff and be away from our families. Like that stuff is hard. Everyone's making sacrifices. We're all making sacrifices. obviously we're we always we're so lucky. Like, this is our job. Like, we are blessed.
For sure.
We are blessed. We are blessed. You're blessed.
Yeah.
We're like, you have a successful podcast. You're a manager. You could be doing, Chief always says you could be, what do you say about graves?
We're digging graves,
Digging graves.
ditches.
You could be digging ditches. It could be a much tougher life, but there are sacrifices to make. Everyone has their own journey, and people are like, I don't understand why this artist, like, he's rich, he's famous, she's rich, she's famous. Why are they like going through stuff? It's like, everyone's got their own situation,
100%.
their own stuff that they have to deal with. Everyone's making sacrifices to get here.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
you know, you have to be equipped.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that they don't love it. It's just people are people. They gotta,
people are
go through.
people.
They're going through things,
Yeah,
right?
and it's better to have those it's better to sit there with an artist and go, okay, you're married and you just had your first child and you want to now be an artist. You realize if your first year, you're going to be away probably 200 days out of that year. Have you had that discussion with your wife? No. Are you ready to leave your... No, I'm not. Well, then maybe you should rethink it, because that is what it's going to take. And you're not going to even make that much money to be able to fly them out or have a nanny or do any of that. Like, those are the real discussions that you have to have.
Tough conversations.
You can't be afraid of those conversations, because as a manager, you see a talented person and you're like, oh, if I say these things, I'm going to scare the person. But that's when you
have to.
Yeah, you could really fuck up.
And
real
they're
bad
not
if you
even
do that.
there. I think a lot of people come in with fear of being fired, right? Saying the wrong thing that the artist won't like, and like, oh, well, if you want a yes person, we're the wrong management. You know what I mean? If you want, because there's a lot of yes people, right, who will just tell you what you want to hear. That's the best song I've ever heard, the best live show I've ever heard. It's not true. We're all works in progress. Artists are the same way. You got to be honest. You got to be able to receive that. Because if you want us to just tell you everything is rainbows and butterflies, find someone else.
We ain't it.
We're always working to be better. There's levels. You want to be on Morgan's level? You want to be on Taylor's level? There's a lot of stuff that went to get them to that point.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So we're constantly,
Great.
we're truth tellers. You got to be a truth teller.
That's amazing. Man, guys, I appreciate the time sitting over here.
Thank you.
Man.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. So much. Thank you so much again for letting us in here in the building.
When are we going to a country show together?
Whenever you guys tell me, man, I'm there. I live here, so you know. Or if I'll pull up to Nashville. I've been to Nashville a couple of times,
you gotta come.
but never been, in the space.
We'll
that you
think
guys
of
are.
a fun one for you to come to.
Yeah, I'm super down. Listen, man, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right, guys. Thank you.
Awesome.